Not too far from where I live, there's a polling place where there's enough space between the actual voting location and the parking lot where candidates can go and speak to voters as they're walking from their car into the voting place and give them flyers, have a short discussion with them, that sort of thing. A lot of candidates do this. Typically, I have not done this. And the reason is very simple. First, I don't like the behavior that I see from some of the candidates. I don't like seeing my congressman stand at the electioneering line and yell at people who have passed, hey, come back and take a picture with me, come back and talk to me. I don't like him standing there and asking people as they walked out, hey, how did I do? Basically, did you vote for me? I just don't like seeing what I see, so I choose not to participate in it. I did go down there on this past Friday and did hand out flyers. One of the other reasons I don't like to do this is there is a level of cordiality that's typically extended amongst competitors in various races. This has typically not been extended to the congressman's opponents. So rather than create a problem or allow a problem to be created, I've chosen not to go down there. Less than 2 or 3 days ago, one of the people that was down there accused the spouse of a candidate of assaulting them. They filed a police report, which in my opinion was fraudulent. They called the media. It became this big spectacle, and those are the sorts of things that tend to happen there. I did have a few hours on Friday, chose to go down there, and right away was basically yelled at by the congressman's wife. Some of his supporters were saying things that, to be perfectly honest, you don't say at all, much less in the context of you're an elected official or you're working for an elected official. After the second or third time this happened, one or two of them began to approach me. I made the decision at that point that they were either going to escalate this to a physical confrontation or they were going to accuse me of doing that. So I made the decision to pull out my phone and record it. What you're about to see is that conversation that took place. And I've cut it up a little bit because it's a very long conversation. Nothing's taken out of context. Nothing is portrayed in the way that it was not given. But this is the way that your congressman's staff speaks and acts when the media is not around to watch them.
Now, Trump is an asshole. Let's get that straight. And I've told him that. I asked him one time, I want you to give me one trait that you would like to see from him carried down to your children. And they can't do it. Right? But if you know what they've done for the district, and you know the blood and sweat and tears that they've done for the people in the district, now when I go in there and I pull the trigger, I am not voting for Trump, and I am not voting for Ted Cruz. I ain't doing it. I can't do it.
But you're working for somebody. You're telling people he's got the president's back. He's got the president's endorsement. He's the president's guy.
You know what? Have you ever been in a situation in a job where you had to make life is a sandwich, and you hope somebody makes it out of fresh bread? There are things that you have to do to survive in this world. Think of what it would be without him. Let's just say that he went against the president and gets primaried out, and they put some asshole in there who comes in and so what do you do?
It's who's he you're telling?
No, I'm saying anybody that went against Randy. So let's just say he stabs the president in the back and he says Trump's an ignorant son of a and a primary and he's out. Now we got somebody in there that doesn't have the drag, maybe doesn't have the concern for the neighborhood that we're in, but you ought to be around those people. They're decent people. Now this is from a guy that doesn't like Trump. I think he's an immoral. He's a draft dodger. He's immoral. But what's the alternative? Go back to the question. Do you have one thing in him, one character trait that you would love to have your kids have?
I think for the most part he says what he means, and he means
no,
what
he doesn't.
says.
6,000 lies since he's been in the White House. Can you look at me and tell me that man is not a pathological liar, Josh?
Sure. I think for the most part he's genuine when he says what he wants to do, wanting to do something and being able to do something when you're
off the cuff stuff that he says, not about off the stuff comments that this guy makes that turn out not to be true. Look at me and tell me you don't think we're dealing with a pathological liar.
No, I don't. I wouldn't say that. Of course, not really bravery or courage.
He's not brave. He's a draft dodger, Josh.
Well, I don't agree with that term at all.
Why he dodged the military, Josh?
I don't think he did.
And Josh, he got 5 deferments, Josh.
A lot of people get deferments. That's different
Okay,
from
he got. No, it's not. It's the same thing. He got 5 deferments because a doctor wrote a letter that said he had bone spurs.
Hey, I was a Special Forces Marine. You're preaching to the choir on service, but I don't believe that. I don't believe service is a prerequisite to hold office. And if it's service, it's not something you do to get a benefit later. It's service. But
And do you think the economy is better, or do you think that the stock market is up? There's a difference.
Well, I do think the economy is better, but strictly on what
When
the
did it start?
trade stuff that he's done made it better.
When did it start? The trade has not happened. Has not helped anything. We
Well,
are $1 trillion in debt, Josh. $1 trillion.
All of these things you're saying, the guy you're supporting voted for.
I understand. Well, do you like this guy that's in the White House? With all of the authoritarian shit that's going on?
If he was not authoritarian,
He
he'd be
has
getting it
shut
done.
the Department of Justice down. Let's just look at the CDC. He got rid of qualified people in the CDC, and we got a coronavirus thing right now, and there's nobody home. He put Mike Pence and Larry Kudlow in charge of taking care of the coronavirus. Think about that, Josh. You care about your kids? Larry Kudlow is in charge of coronavirus, Josh. Go to bed tonight and think about that.
I don't fear the coronavirus. I'm sorry.
Fear it.
But why? So why are you telling everybody Randy is the president's biggest supporter and the president's his biggest supporter, and yet you don't like the president at all? Why do that?
I didn't say I didn't like him at all. Well, I said I don't like some of his core principles and beliefs. Life, Josh, is a sandwich, and you hope somebody gives you a fresh loaf of bread, bud.
Tell you what, I'm from here. I've been working for you. I am your anti-socialistic, anti-illegal immigration, gun-toting, Trump-supporting congressman. That's my credential. Charles, at exactly 7:26 p.m. tonight, Donald Trump tweeted out, Representative Randy Weber, Texas 14, has been a huge, all in capital letters, supporter of our Make America Great agenda from the very beginning. Strong on crime, the border, illegal immigration, the Second Amendment, and our great military vets. Randy Weber has my full endorsement. I'm proud to have President Trump's endorsement. Those are my qualifications. I'm proud to have President Trump's endorsement. Those are my qualifications. I'm proud to have President Trump's endorsement. Those are my qualifications.
So if you noticed in the debate there, what the congressman is touting is the president's endorsement of him and him being the biggest supporter of the president there is. The flyers that the guy was handing out there are these. If you notice, it's a picture of Congressman Weber with the president. Mailers have been sent out that have this same picture on there. Pretty much the entirety of the congressman's re-election strategy is, I'm the president's guy, I have his ear, he listens to me, we support each other. Now, this has been a problem for me because in 2016, the congressman supported Senator Ted Cruz for the presidential nominee. Now, no one's going to hold that against him. But when the senator dropped out of the race, Congressman Weber refused to endorse candidate Trump. As a matter of fact, he wouldn't even speak his name. This changed when candidate Trump won the election and the congressman saw how popular he was within this district. Now, when he's touting that he's the president's biggest supporter, yet his own personal friends who he's known for a long time, people who are working his campaign, are privately saying, yeah, that's not really true, nobody really likes Trump. That makes me think that this conversion that happened in 2016 was not really legitimate. And when I add that to that, the fact that he co-sponsored TAPS, which is an anti-Second Amendment piece of legislation, that he voted for H.R. 1044 this summer, which is a horrible piece of immigration legislation that would have changed our future in this nation had it actually been passed in the Senate. Again, it makes me think that this conversion that happened in 2016 was not really legitimate. I simply don't believe that the man in this video, who has known the Webbers for decades, who has worked a number of their campaigns, who was down there almost every day in the 2-week early voting period, that he would have these views and yet work to get a man elected in Congressman Weber whose views were 180 degrees out of sync with his own. I simply don't believe that. The reality of the matter is that the people in Washington don't share our views. That's why nothing's getting done on immigration. The only way to change the future of this nation is to change the people in charge of it. And that's why I'm running for Congress.